Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Soundless Sold Out podcast. Today, we're going to have Drake Xavier on, a wrestler. He's a great friend of the show, and we're going to get him on right now.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, Drake. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, and yourself?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Awesome.
So, what's the latest?
Bunch of craziness has been going on with me lately.
Yeah.
Nobody's here. Go away, dogs. Well, I got a second title right now.
What is that second title?
Over at AMP Wrestling, I got the Grand Championship, which is more or less the heavyweight championship.
Oh, that's great news, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. Fun weekend where I had to drive up to New Heights Wrestling again. Retain the title up there, so I'm still the Pride champion. On the way up, my tire blew on me, though, so that was a fun time.
Yeah, I had to deal with that. The Road Warrior stuff.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's yeah, 5 hours each way, so luckily it blew when I was basically to the show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff like that, and training my ass off. Unfortunately, cutting back a little bit at WWN school because I've been having to work more, but, you know.
What's on the horizon with that belt? Like, now that you have that belt, any big contenders coming up, or?
Not at the moment. They don't have a date for the next show just yet.
Right.
But, figuring it out. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be having my rematch with the previous champion, so there's that.
Uh-huh. And who'd you face whenever you won that belt for the audience?
The Iron Kaiser Krieger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of him or seen any of his stuff on. He does a lot of local shows around here, like WWN, FIP, that kind of stuff.
Right. For like the target like Tampa audience, do you have anything kind of like in that perimeter coming up, or any or Florida or?
Yeah, I mean, I will be going to WWN a couple days this month, and then FIP is going to be on the 25th.
Mm-hmm.
And then Real Brutal Wrestling, which is going to be in Newport Richie, I believe is going to be on the 31st.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So like so you have that belt. Do you feel like, how do I word this, like any pressure now, or is it kind of like a little bit of ease off the pressure, or is it, now they're gunning for you, or what?
Not particularly. I won the belt because I am who I am, so I'm just going to keep being who I am, showing up, showing out,
Right.
proving why I deserve the belt,
Right. Do you believe in that saying, like, when you look at the big shows like the WWE and stuff, and I'm starting to believe it more. I think it was like Shawn Michaels made this quote, and I think Cody Rhodes is going through this, where it's like everybody wants you to have the belt until you get the belt. You believe in that saying? Like, it's like everybody wants you to be champion until you're champion, and then it's like, oh, he's got a belt,
Yeah. I kind of believe that at times, especially there's some wrestlers who get those big egos because, oh, look at me, I have a championship. It's like, very cool, but
Yeah.
I mean, what else has changed? I mean, if that's the only thing that's changed, right? You got an ego, like, something wrong with you, dude? Are you okay? Like,
Right. Yeah, because I believe Cody's going through that. Like, you look at that storyline, and it went on for 2 years, right? About Cody finished the story, and to the point that they rewrote WrestleMania, because of the outrage of, oh, you're gonna have Reigns versus The Rock and not Cody, so Cody's got to finish the story.
Yeah.
And here we are. It's not even, we're not even out of summer, right? Technically, and you're reading comments online about, oh, why is he the champion? I'm like, but there was like total outrage about, you know what I'm saying? Like, there was like outrage about him, and I remember when I was a kid growing up, like, I liked HBK, you know,
Mhm.
because I like your style of wrestling. You guys that just go to the top rope, no fear, crazy stuff. You
Mhm.
know, like I don't understand how you do it, like mentally how you do that. You know, but
Yeah.
I've always admired it. You know, like how does that guy go to the top rope and just fly off like that with no fear? You know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So as a kid, like I remember like always wanting Shawn to Michaels to have the belt, and then kind of like same thing, same pattern. Like he got the belt, and then he won the big Iron Man match, and then people started like hating on him, like, oh, why is he champion? You know?
Yeah. It's a point of how are they keeping the belt relevant, and a lot of people don't want to actually see other people succeed.
Yeah, I
Um,
believe that. I believe that. It's a
so
shame that people like hate like that. That they want to drag you down. You
no,
know?
yeah,
and
but
I think too, like with social media, you see it, not to get like on like start preaching on or whatever, but you see it on social media where there's just so many comments made about everybody in general, so it's
yeah,
like you get the negative comments, you get the positive, but then you get the negative. It's like almost like it's so many people with a megaphone on social media, you
yeah. Well,
know
they're anonymous people online. They can't honestly get they're not talking face to face with people, so they can say whatever they want with very little repercussions
right,
most of the time.
right.
And uh, yeah, and unfortunately, um, with how everything is, a lot of popularity comes from negativity over positivity.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that sucks, man. I'm just not that way, you know?
yeah, I understand that. I try to preach positivity while I'm out there and try to be as nice as I can, but it's
Right.
rough at times.
Right. I mean, I read the saying one time, like, it takes, like, I think it's like 7 compliments to make up for like a criticism. Like, if you
Oh
criticize somebody, it takes like about 7 compliments for that person to try to forget that criticism that you just gave them, you know?
yeah,
So. But anyway, we're kind of getting psychological,
yeah.
but speaking of like psychology, I want to ask you because like we talked about your moves before,
Mhm.
and like mentally, because we were just diving into it, when you're going to do a move like that, I'm always curious. Like, okay, I'm going the top rope. I'm gonna do something crazy that's gonna make a highlight. Um, like what is your mental process? Do you just kind of like do it and don't even think about it, or you just kind of like are you like thinking about it before the match, like I'm about to do something crazy, or
Yeah. So the way it works for me, it's probably different from for a lot of people. Especially, fun fact: a lot of high flyers out there have a horrible fear of heights. I found that out throughout my years of wrestling. But for me personally, I'll be like, all right, cool. I have to do this now. And as I'm getting set up for it, I'm like, oh crap, what if I mess up? What if I mess up? Don't do that. Ba, 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 ba.
mm-hmm.
And then right before I go to perform the move, I literally tell myself mentally that I don't know if you've heard the saying "full send."
Yeah,
Just yeah, I just tell myself just full send it, and it's worked out about 95% of the time.
okay,
The only times I've really screwed up is when I didn't tell myself that, or I didn't, if I didn't put my all into it, I screwed it up, and I've gotten myself hurt a few times. So
mm-hmm. And what about that? Like, you go online and you'll see like, okay, like people like to be funny and they'll be like, let's look at the botches in a match. Like for you, like let's say either you do a botch or like somebody else is wrestling you and they botch. It's like something goes wrong, right?
mm,
Do you, how quick of a recovery do you have with that? Does it sit in your mind or you just kind of like erase it? Like, let's just keep going.
typically, if there's a botch, if we can recover from it, recover as fast as possible. You don't. I wouldn't. I try my best to not go back to where we were. To
Mm-hmm.
just skip over that, keep moving along, and everything like that. Um, as a professional, it's gonna bother me, especially if it's my fault for the next, 2, 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, hey, that one screw up, and I'm just like, oh god, I need to be better.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I'm a perfectionist when it comes to the ring. So
You think too as a wrestler, like you probably see the botch way bigger than say like me or just an average fan or a casual fan that's just kind of
Yes.
glancing like where because sometimes I'll read like highlights after a show and they'll be like, oh, so and so botched, and I'm like, I was watching it, I know I was watching it, I didn't see it, I don't know what they're analyzing.
Hmm.
So
So I've had matches where I've botched, and I've gone to the back. Everyone says, "Oh man, you had a fantastic match. Everything was great." Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Oh well, I screwed up at this point." And they're like, "We didn't even notice. Like, the boys in the back didn't notice. That means the fans didn't notice, and everything. It's just me and the opponent knew. You
right,
know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but it's still gonna like, even though nobody else knew, it's still gonna bother me."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because the Olympics have been on TV, and my wife's been watching it. Like we've just been obsessing over it, and
The
I'm like,
breakdancing, right?
yeah, yeah. And these people do this stuff, and then they're like, oh, they did this, and I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about. I watched the diving the other night, and they're doing these crazy dives, and they're hitting the pool without making any splash, and then they're analyzing the flips, and I'm just like, I don't know how humans can do that. Period.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then we watch like gymnastics, and they kind of make a mistake, but you see they have to immediately smile and act like that's exactly what they meant to do, you know.
Hmm.
And I compare so many sports to wrestling, and like I wondered, like is that kind of like what you do? Just kind of move on, like, oh, we meant to do that, like.
That's all you can really do. It's a one take stuntman deal. So I mean, you can't go back and be like, oh well, that didn't happen. Let's just redo that whole thing.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So
And what are your thoughts on like when these guys that are wrestling, and we both know, you know, they're past their prime. Like they shouldn't be doing this, right?
yeah.
And then you get like the matches where a guy like yourself, like you're gonna just carry this guy the whole match. You know,
Mm.
do you kind of go like you ever, without mentioning a name, you ever had a match like that where you're like, okay, I have to carry this guy like this whole match?
I've had a few like that. Um, I I feel like I've told you before. I pride myself in being able to work with anybody with any style the best I can,
Uh huh.
and I try to base the match around what they are capable of doing. I don't want to force them into a situation where they're going to screw something up or try something that they've never done before and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's me carrying the match by, hey, here's an idea, let's do this, swing this around, blah, 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 all this, I don't want to like outshine them to the point where it makes them look like crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, I got in this business. I've always been told take care of each other. A lot of people go into it for themselves, unfortunately, but I'm still out here trying to make every match look as good as I can with whoever I'm with.
What
Does it always work? No, but
mhm.
I try.
What are your thoughts on like there's matches in history where you've seen where they just go south, and I won't say the word unprofessional, but okay, here's a good example. Like you got the match with the Hogan and HBK, and it was supposed to
Okay.
be a trilogy, right? It's supposed to be a
Uh,
trilogy, and supposedly before the match, Hogan, says, "Hey, this is gonna be a one-off, and I'm supposed to win." And Michaels took it like we're gonna do a trilogy, and it's gonna be like I win one and you win two or something to that effect. So
mm-hmm,
then he kind of goes, "Okay, all right, you're not working with me, so I'm gonna oversell the match. You know, what do you
mm-hmm.
think about when wrestlers do that, where they kind of go rogue and go, all right, I'm gonna like do whatever because I'm frustrated? You think it's kind of like you reap what you sow from like Hogan, like Hogan gets it, or kind of like maybe that shouldn't be done?
Um, Mixed feelings on that. Like, as long as it's done in a safe way, go for it. Have your fun. I've had moments where I'm just like, I've been stuck in a point where people are like, I haven't been in spots where I want to be on the show, and it's like, man, nobody wants to do fun stuff and everything. And I finally wrestle against somebody who's willing to do all the crazy things that I can do. And we've been like, screw it, we're gonna steal the show. We're gonna do some insane stuff that nobody's seen before, and just as like a popcorn match, basically,
Mm-hmm.
something that nobody's really gonna pay attention to, and we just blow it out of the water, have a crazy match. Fans are just like sitting there like dumbfounded because they don't understand what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but we had fun with it, kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wasn't trying to be negative on anybody else there. It was just like one of those things like I need to have this blow off because I've been wrestling a bunch of people that can't do what I want to do. I'm wrestling this guy that can. Screw it, we're just gonna have fun tonight, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
It,
don't know if that sounds unprofessional, but like at times it's just I needed to blow off some steam in front of a crowd, you know what I mean?
yeah, and I think the young guys like yourself, like they always have a way to, politely like steal the show. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I go back and I know I keep using WWE references, but like you go back to like WrestleMania 3, whenever I was a kid, it was nothing but Hogan and the Giant, Hogan and the Giant. And then
Yeah.
Macho Man and Steamboat come out and absolutely steal the show. Right. And
Yeah.
they said they went over that match and they had like the whatever many steps that they were gonna go over, but when you watch it, you're like, okay, I know that this match was supposed to be the one that maybe, go crazy, but it was actually this match.
Mm-hmm.
Or when I went to the one WrestleMania I've been to, it was 24, right? And everybody was like, Ric Flair's having his whatever retirement match. Like, that was
Yeah.
supposed to be the official one, and that was like the big match. And then the indie match was Edge and Taker, and that was supposed to be like the big match. But
Mm-hmm.
really, what stuck out in my mind was actually not really a long match, but it was Batista and Umaga, and they
Okay.
and they had like a big, like a probably, I don't know, I would say guess like maybe 12-15 minute match,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just intense young guys in their prime. And to me, I was like, that match stood out, like of the, and it didn't get near the hype. It wasn't like supposed to be like the headliner or anything like that. I know it's WrestleMania and everybody steps up their game, but I think that that's one thing that, like yourself, you can do is you can be the guy that steals the show,
Mm-hmm.
versus a guy that's, no offense, but like in his 50s and, even possibly 60s, just trying to hang on, you
Yeah.
know,
They're
because,
brought in because of their name and their legacy and all that versus what they can do still.
right.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that that was something that, you know, without making everybody mad about age and I know that there shouldn't be like an age cutoff. My uncle talked about that before where I was like, do you think there should be an age where they say you just can't wrestle? And he responded with, it's not about your age, it's can you still do it? And
Can you
can
perform
you
up
perform?
to the standards? Yeah,
Right.
that's all.
Right.
Nothing against your age, nothing against anything like that. It's can you perform the way you would want to perform in front of people?
Right. And that's something for me that I've said this to you before where I wish wrestling would like clean that up a little bit more, just the whole industry, you know,
Yeah.
because if they can perform, great, but if they can't perform and everybody knows that they can't perform, but you're using that name because that name is established. I'm like, when you look at other sports, they don't do that. They don't, the Yankees don't bring in, Derek Jeter tonight because, he's a
Yeah.
legendary Yankee, right? They might
Exactly.
use him for, and I have no problem with these guys being on TV. It's just when they put them in that match and you're like, this guy can't perform anymore,
Yeah.
you know? Like right now they're saying, Braun Breaker. I was reading this online. I think this guy is Rick Steiner's son. I think he's on a like, he's taken off like crazy. He's going to be
Oh
probably the
yeah.
next big guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're mentioning, oh, what if he faced Taker at WrestleMania in Vegas? And I'm like, why?
Please no.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why? Like Taker, you know, you watch him walk, you know that that's not, how that's going to be. No
Yeah.
no disrespect to the Taker, but come on.
Yeah. Taker retired because he knew he was done. There was
Yeah.
nothing left he could do. There was nothing left that he needed to do. I mean, I could see if he really wanted to, him getting back in shape for one more match,
Hmm.
but he doesn't need to. He's done everything he needed to. And
Right.
if they were to bring him back for a WrestleMania for Braun Breaker to show up and beat him again, like, it's pointless. Like,
Yeah.
he already lost the streak.
Right.
Like, how? So,
Yeah. So it's like bring in young talent, you know, talent in their prime, and have them
mhm,
mow through those guys, you know, and then you
yeah,
really put them over, you know. Like that's where I see it that there's no win in this situation. There's no win because like you bring in Taker and he faces him, he wins. Okay, he should win. Or he
mhm,
doesn't win. Now you've kind of taken that guy down by a notch because for whatever reason, you know,
yeah,
because he faced a legend,
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
But I don't
Especially,
know.
especially if he's got like a big old like win streak behind him. He's got the all the crowd behind him, all this build up and everything like that, and then it was cut off by Taker. It's like it completely pointless.
Hmm.
And I completely agree with Braun Breaker possibly being the next big thing because I've been trying to keep up with NXT for the most part,
Hmm.
especially because SmackDown and Raw is like a few friggin' like weeks behind,
Yeah.
um, at least on Peacock. But and I've seen him evolve over the short period, like in the last year, how much he's improved and everything like that.
Right.
Like
Hmm.
first time I saw him, like, oh yeah, who is this guy? Cool. Every other move looks good. Every other move he takes looks all right. All this stuff. Nowadays, he's killing it from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's killing it. And
mhm.
I don't know if you caught SummerSlam, but I actually did a podcast strictly about SummerSlam because
Mhm.
I thought it was great. I actually think it was better than Mania,
I
honestly. You
I
know?
I had watched like about half of it. I'd gotten through the Sami Zayn Braun Breaker match. The last match I watched was the U.S. title match actually,
Hmm.
and I just wasn't in the right mindset while I was watching, and
Uh
I,
huh.
I was I was a little upset unfortunately because the cutoff spot for most of the matches was shoulder to the turnbuckle,
Yeah.
and say okay, Rhea Ripley makes sense, cool. Braun Breaker he does a spear, that
Yeah.
makes sense, and then it just kept going, and I'm like, all right, like. Aren't there supposed to be people telling? Aren't you supposed to talk about this kind of stuff so it doesn't happen in every single match?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where you're
but
like the pro and I'm not because you're picking up on that stuff. Like,
yeah,
so that's where you're the pro because you're watching these matches and you're overthinking them, and I'm watching them as a fan, and it's kind of going, you know, wow, this is the best SummerSlam ever and better than Mania. So
yeah, like it's a blessing and a curse because I can't. I miss being able to watch shows like back when I was a kid, and I would see like Shawn Michaels super kick someone, and I'd be like, oh my god, his jaw's broken. It's just you know
yeah,
amazing stuff like that, and I don't get the reaction when I nitpick everything, and it's kind of terrible.
that just means you're a
But
professional.
yeah,
You're the professional wrestler, and I'm just a casual fan just watching.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so so now that you got the two belts, what's on the horizon? Anything you want to plug before we go? Anything
Uh,
specific for the Florida audience and any audience out there?
yeah. Florida audience. I mean, Central Florida stuff. We got FIP on August 25th. That's going to be in Clearwater, Florida, over at the OCC Roadhouse. And then Real Brutal Wrestling, up and coming little promotion. Um, they're going to be, I believe, August 31st over at the Circle S Barbecue in Newport Richie. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's a little ways away, but October 19th up in northern Florida, the Definiak Springs area, New Heights Wrestling will be running again there. And I'm still their Pride champion, so you got to come and check me out there. So,
Absolutely. Well, once again, man, congratulations with your new title and all your success, and stay safe. And you're always a great guest, man. I'm glad you come on.
thank you very much again for having me on.
All right. Well,
Uh,
have a great day. Appreciate
you
it.
as well.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. And once again, I want to thank everyone for joining the Silent So Loud podcast. That was Drake Xavier. Go on YouTube, check him out. He's got some great matches, and he just always gives a fantastic interview. And thank you for listening, and have a great day.